Good morning, Ram Nation. We are back with another edition of DNVR Rams Live. I'm Justin Michael. My main man, Andre Simone, is here. We got Tiff on the board in the back. The whole squad is here. We're talking college football, talking Boise State on homecoming weekend, an opportunity for the Rams to make history. I'm excited to dive into the key areas of this matchup. We'll, kind of highlight the areas CSU needs to improve, all that. Obviously, we'll get into our power rankings and picks, but first things first, this is kind of the start of the football weekend. I know we technically have Tuesday and Wednesday night college football, which is great. Don't want to just gloss over the action. But how you feeling, man?
Oh, Justin, I can't believe we're back here doing this. This all lined up so well. Such an important Saturday for the Rams to start off conference play. Delightful first quarter. Loved everything I saw.
It got ugly in a hurry, man. This was a train wreck. It just got out of control from CSU, and you could feel it coming. I know it was technically tied at halftime, but it was just one of those where you could feel that the tide had turned right there in the third quarter. You have an opportunity. Bam, you give up a 76-yard touchdown on 3rd and 11, and it was ugly. There were so many aspects of this matchup that were disheartening from the CSU perspective. Obviously, the defense was terrible. You did get 6 sacks and create 4 turnovers, which is insane, but
the pressure they brought early was outstanding. That's the thing that's so concerning, man. Aside from what's concerning is keep talking up the talent, which I know this team has and other teams have, and them not really living up to it. But a defense like this, with the quality of that front seven, with the quality of pass rushers they have, should not be able to get blown out when they have a 17-point lead.
They're just too good. And I do think they got gassed. The success that you had offensively was, you had the one drive that ended with a rushing touchdown by Van Shield, but you have the Torrey Horton return for a touchdown. The passing offense never gets going. They were on the field a lot, which makes sense. And you could see they were gassed in that second quarter. But I think what was really disappointing to me was just the lack of response coming out of halftime. You're on the road. You're going up against an explosive Utah State offense. I said going in, they're going to score on you. They're going to create plays. You can't expect to win a 13-10 game or something like that against this Utah State team. But to just get, frankly, bullied the way they did on both sides of the ball in the second half was really alarming, considering we were 2 weeks removed from, talking somewhat realistically about CSU being in the Mountain West Championship mix.
Yeah, and I don't even know about bullied. Kind of out-athleted. The vertical passing game was the difference in the second and third quarter. The biggest place CSU is able to produce in the vertical passing games, that throw to the end zone to Torrey Horton. I'll take Torrey in a one-on-one deep any day of the week. It's a pick. And you probably iced the game right there, right?
It's a turning
That could have
point.
been an early dagger where you're up 24-zip. It's kind of like, what are these guys going to do? Instead, no, it's a huge pick for them. And then after throwing some interceptions, they start to hit those vertical bombs. And that snowballed like crazy, man. And it's something we've talked about a lot, is generating big plays. I think that's fundamental for this offense.
It's huge.
And there just weren't enough. And then once and we've seen this with the Rams, right? Once the vertical passing game gets going, then the run game starts going. Then the screen game. Then Dalton Holker gets unlocked. Well, shit, they started to gash him like crazy. I couldn't believe that run D, man. I could not believe it. How good this defense is. This baseball, we always talk about the spine of a team, right? Your catcher, your shortstop, your center fielder. I feel like the spine of this team, on paper, I felt really good about it. Games like this will make me feel really bad about it.
I think it's important to note that, obviously it's one game. A lot of their issues are you have a larger sample size. These are persistent problems, but I just mean the way in which they were embarrassed, the way in which the offense was dominated. That had not been the case these last couple of weeks. It felt a lot like that Washington State game on both sides.
A little bit.
Really just ugly.
By far the most rattled we've seen BFN
He didn't have it, man. It was a really bad
right?
game for him. Like he made some bad decisions. He missed throws all night, and he does have some things mechanically that he needs to clean up, just in terms of, I think there have been some throws at times this year where he's kind of been bailed out by how good, Torrey and Dallin are at adjusting to the football. And
it's fair.
Without Torrey, for the entirety of that second half, you just really felt it compound. Like they couldn't get the run game going. They didn't have their number one receiver. He didn't develop anything, with any of those other younger guys as the game went on. Hope a Justice Ross Simmons, a Lewis Brown, somebody like that can get it going. Right. Unfortunately, none of those guys were able to step up. But I mean, Braden was bad in this game, and it doesn't change how you feel about his ceiling. He's a redshirt freshman. He's got less than 6 career starts, but I mean, he was missing all over the place, and he's got to clean up the turnovers, because right now, he's turning it over at one of the highest rates in the country.
Yeah. And yet, fourth quarter, when they say, look, we got to kind of let it loose and try to get back in this, dime to Holker deep out, right? On 3rd and 7. And then he hits Holker over the middle again. And if you don't get that fumble, all of a sudden that you could be talking about a touchdown game where you kind of reverse momentum.
It's just one of those nights. I mean, you brought up the interception where Ike Larson makes an incredible play on the ball. I mean, credit to him. Maybe it's slightly underthrown. If you get another foot on it, he's not able to make that play. Torrey hauls it in, but still.
In retrospect, you like that on the outside shoulder, but no shit. That's why we're not playing quarterback at D1 and we're not throwing 40-yard bombs.
Well, it's not
easy
Madden.
to be right. Oh, well, sit in the pocket, face the pressure, wait for the exact timing, and then perfect 42-yard dime on the outside shoulder. Yeah, no, easier said than done.
Yeah. And frankly, I mean, it's a play Torrey makes 9.99 times out of 10.
Absolutely,
the one instance in which, the really great player, and Ike Larson, who's the defensive player of the week for the conference for a reason. He had 2 picks in this one. But I mean, it was just one of those nights, and you get down to the red zone, you fumble instead of, getting it within 1 score. That's basically lights out, game over. But I think moving forward, because that's, kind of what we're going to focus on here, is this game, the next month, the areas that the Rams need to clean up. You got to see some consistency from this team. They've yet to play a 4-quarter game where you felt really good about how both sides played for all 4 quarters.
No doubt.
And you're going into a really important stretch here. I mean, you got Boise State, UNLV, Air Force, and Wyoming. You're going to be dogs in all 4 of those games. If you go 0-4, you're going to miss the postseason. You have to find a way to steal one. I mean, if you could find a way to go 2-2, that'd be huge before you end the season with 3 very winnable games in San Diego State, Nevada, and Hawaii. Give yourself a little bit of breathing room. But this team is too good to not at least go 500 with the talent that they have.
1,000%. And we got to remember, these are college kids. We got to remember, while it's easy, I mean, especially doing this, right? A weekly podcast, you on the daily side, to buy into the narratives, and it's all, everything's upside down and everything's right side up after a win. There's shades of gray in life. You can bounce right back against Boise. This is a perfect spot to bounce right back. I've talked a lot about identity. Right now, their identity, part of it, is a sloppy, undisciplined football team that's getting too many penalties, that's not coming up clutch enough on big third downs, defensively, in the red zone, offensively. These are stats J-Mike gave me before the show went on air, so I'm not trying to poach or take credit, and you feel it. And you were telling me the stat that the defense is on the field more this season than they were last year. Unfathomable with how much more successful the offense has been. But you feel it. And I forget who on one of the comments just above was saying I was right about the got athleted. Let me give a little more context to that. CSU got athleted, not like, oh, wow, they have more talent. They particularly got outrun. The opponent had more speed.
Yeah.
And CSU's starting to feel like one of those blue bloods who has the bigger, stronger, faster athletes and is getting their ass kicked by a Texas Tech, by a Washington State, who's like, yeah, you can recruit better athletes, better, stronger, faster, but we're just going to line up wide and give you more speed. And 2 years into the Jay Norvell experience, I didn't think that's how I would be feeling, you know? Yeah. I thought Jay was going to bring that to the big dogs of the conference and kind of show you, hey, with resources and buy-in, this is what you can do when you use my scheme. And we're not quite there.
I think it's a good reminder that, I mean, you're 2 recruiting classes in, but you're basically 1 recruiting class in, because your first class was to field a team of 22 players, not to build your roster, not to, anything, to literally, we need bodies for these 12 games. And it was evident that that's how things went last year. You sign 50 guys this offseason, you're not going to hit on all of them. Mm-hmm. You're not. Mm-hmm. And I think the disparity in depth, is starting to play through. Yes, you have more bodies in the building than you had last year, and you like a lot of these young guys that are coming, but you're really exposed in these instances where your first string defense has been on the field for a quarter and a half, and now you're having to rotate some of these guys in, and the depth isn't quite there. We're seeing it on offense as well. Some of these guys, once you get past the top couple receivers, they don't have 5-6 veterans that they trust just yet. And it's going to take time to build this. It's going to take a couple of recruiting classes to really get to a spot where you feel great about the entirety of the roster, top to bottom. But I mean, it is alarming, and they're just very, very dependent on their top guys right now. And that's a tough spot, especially given, Mo Kamara, Torrey Horton, basically both day-to-day questionable, I guess, going in.
Yeah. And I mean, Moby now in overtime on the showdown. How big of a difference is that?
You felt it that first half as well against Middle Tennessee State. Like, they ran the ball for 2 more yards a pop. That's when they're able to, get Vadiato out of, the pocket and create some plays downfield.
That's exactly right.
Right now, they are very dependent on Torrey and Mo being the best players in the conference, which I think they are, respectively. But they need more. They need more consistency. And there are just a lot of little areas they need to clean up, which we're going to get into. But real quick, do want to shout out our friends over at Breckenridge Brewery. You guys know that we love Breck Brew. And that's because it comes down to their quality product, man. They've been doing it for 33 years.
Great depth at Breck Brew.
Great depth. Yeah. Elite depth, some would say. Like Golden State Warriors peak, Miami with LeBron and D-Wade. That is what Breck Brew does.
NBA on outside. Incredible.
I got to avoid, what are we going to... I guess I could go Elway and TD. I got the TD jersey on.
Eagles defensive line.
Eagles D-line's another great one. Georgia these past couple years.
When the Rams were wide receiver, you at wide receiver? That's the kind of depth. They've built up their recruiting classes over the years at Breck Brew. That's what we're trying to say.
Anyways, Breck Brew, they're the bee's knees. I love them. Dre loves them. You're going to love them. Check out the beer of the month, which is the Broncos Country Hoppy Ale. It's really, really yummy. They recently redid the recipe. It's got a dope can. They've got great merch. Check out the Breck Farmhouse in Littleton, and check out the Breck Beer Locator at breckbrew.com. Find a brew near you.
Do it.
Also, the NFL season, it's going, it's happening. There is football being played. DraftKings Sportsbook, they're hooking new customers up with an offer that's just the tits. Bet $5 on any game, score $200 instantly in bonus bets. Sorry for saying that. I don't know why I did.
No, that was
DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every game this October. Maybe you want to boost Travis Kelce anytime touchdown with Taylor Swift, being in there. You might as well benefit monetarily. We hadn't beat this team in close to a decade. My entire family's from Kansas. I'm getting hit up about it left and right. I'm going to find a way to make the best out of this situation. And DraftKings always makes that possible. Get in on the game day greatness. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code DNVR. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet $5 on the NFL. With that code DNVR only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 8787-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling.
Yes.
Call 1-800-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Licensee partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, Louisiana. 21 and up. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Ontario bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources.
Woo!
Woo.
Good stuff.
All right, let's turn the page. Utah State's in the past. It was ugly.
Thank goodness.
It was horrific. It was everything you want to describe it, whatever word. But you have an opportunity here, to make history on homecoming. CSU obviously has never beaten Boise State, 0-12 since they joined the league in 2011.
Yeah.
That said, the games tend to be a hell of a lot closer in Fort Collins. Boise's average margin of victory in FOCO, about a touchdown, 7.5 points. It's 32.5 points in Boise. It's greatly influenced by two just insane blowouts that happened in Boise. But the Rams have been in it basically going back the last decade. When the game's in Fort Collins, you have a big opportunity here. You're coming off of a game in which you blew a 17-0 lead. Yep. Boise, on the other hand, coming back. They came back from 17-0 against San Jose State, a team that continues to underwhelm.
My goodness.
I don't know. I mean, if you're looking for optimism, is this an instance where all the pressure is on Boise State? I mean, they're 2-0 in the league, so if you win this, you're basically in the driver's seat you're at least in the mix for the Mountain West Championship. Right. Air Force still in a great spot. Wyoming, we'll see what happens in that game this weekend. But I mean, if you're the Rams, if you lose this one, all of a sudden, I mean, your margin for error is just so slim when it comes to reaching the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, once we got the Power 5 opponents out the way, this season really did line up to there's some 50-50 games and there's some kind of must wins. And this is one of those huge 50-50 games that is going to swing your season. From an outside perspective, if this was a game for a team that I'm not on a weekly podcast about, this would be the perfect spot to take a home dog like the Rams. Perfect. Boise coming off a huge win like that, comeback fashion. They're high on themselves. They finally feel like they have some momentum. Everyone's willing to overlook their faults that we have discussed for a month this year. They are not the Boise of years past. They still haven't figured out their quarterback situation. I'm not sure the defense is at the standards of year past, and the skill positions is up to snuff outside of their running game. CSU coming off a heartbreaker, devastating loss, one that is just a funky, weird-ass game on the road. And they lost to a team that's built far different from Boise. It's a perfect spot. At home. Homecoming, you say?
Homecoming. Should be a good crowd.
It lines up perfectly. Perfectly. Now, Mo and Torrey being able to play in this game, obviously huge.
If you don't have both of them, your odds of winning very slim. I think especially Mo, you need him on that defensive side. And Torrey's, and that's not a shot at Torrey or anything like that. I just think they're so dependent on Mo generating pressure.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're picking between Elway and TD. They're both essential, but yeah, I think you can maybe overcome Torrey being out just a smidge more because of that depth at wide receiver. And look, BFN's going to have to ball out. What you were saying about the depth when we ended the first segment is exactly right. Well, you're not going to be able to overcome those depth issues if your quarterback's playing a terrible game.
No, and he's got to be the guy that we saw for those couple of weeks. He's got to elevate this team.
Yeah.
Find a way to pull it out like they did against Middle Tennessee. They should have against CU. But I have a couple of things we're going to dive into here. Neither of these teams have been very good on defense. Boise number 112 in team defense in the country. CSU
crazy
128. That's out of 130, guys. So that's not good. Boise currently allows more yards per play, but the Rams allow more yards per game, which makes sense given that CSU is just getting torched on these explosive plays.
Right.
So that's the big area to watch for me, I think, is those explosive plays. You're doing a decent job defensively for the most part on first and second down. It feels like the run defense is solid. It's when they're getting gashed on these 3rd and 8s and 2nd and 9s and stuff like that. And it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it does feel like the 2nd and 3rd level, the back 7 is not doing a great job tackling against the run. Once these runs are able to break through, that's where things are breaking down. That's where you're seeing bad angles being taken, tackles being missed, what have you, and really big gains turning into massive gains and kind of exasperating from there. Again, a lot of it comes down to kind of the spine of your defense. I thought we expected a bit more here.
We did. I mean, there are guys that stepped up in that secondary, especially at safety, that played really well last year, and they've regressed a little bit. And that doesn't mean that they're always going to regress. It doesn't mean it's going to be like this all season. But I mean, those guys have got to step it up, or we're going to see more freshmen on the field. We already saw a lot of TJ Crandall this past week, had his first career interception and his first career start. Love that. He's a great athlete out of Washington. We're going to see Jalen Gardner, I think, in the back end, track star out of Texas. I mean, especially if they keep getting burned over the top, like you can't just keep doing the same thing and rolling some of these same guys out for the majority of the game and expect things to go different, because we have too big of a sample size at this point.
No, 100%. And that team speed on the back end is essential right now.
It's huge. It's huge. Another area, obviously, third down both ways. I mean, this past week, you weren't able to do much of anything on third down on offense that had been a strength for the Rams going in. So you hope that was kind of an anomaly. But defensively, I mean, CSU ranks 119th in third down defense, allowing teams to convert about 46% of the time. I mean, that's almost 50-50. It's really hard to make a living that way, especially when you're giving up 70, 50-yard passes on third down.
Yeah, it's the secondary needs to figure some things out.
Encouraging thing, Boise State, I mean, they're 84th in third down defense. So you have an opportunity, at least on paper. Boise State's secondary, they've really struggled as well. Going to be kind of interesting. Both of these teams' deficiencies defensively feel very similar.
Yeah, it's not a drop back passing team that's going to kill you on third and medium, third and long.
They shouldn't. But I mean, I didn't think Cooper Legal was going to pick them apart either.
That's
I said going into that matchup, I basically dared Utah State to prove they can. And not only did they do that, they did it all night long. Congrats, Cooper Legos. I got to eat some crow on that.
Yeah, and I mean, guys like Taylon Green are pretty stinking talented, even if they haven't played well yet.
Oh, yeah. And what do you think on this? We got a comment from Joey B. Take the over at 60.5, 35-30 type of game.
Justin just told you
these defenses aren't
the defenses.
Good, so yeah, I think that's the play.
I think there's more than enough talent at the skill positions to take the over here and just assume this is going to be a bit of a shootout.
I'm right there with you. Man, this ain't a Phillip Lindsay jersey. This is TD. Not round here, partner. Not round here. Turnovers and penalties. You alluded to this earlier. It's the sloppy, undisciplined areas that really frustrate you. Like, you can live with the occasional effort penalty. Maybe you hit a guy borderline a little too far. A hit on the quarterbacks are obviously, I mean, as long as you're not like trying to kill a guy, sometimes you can take some ticky-tacky ones there. But the procedural errors, the false starts, that's the stuff that's really frustrating. It's been a major factor in all their losses so far this season. If you were going to make history, if you're going to pull the upset, you can't beat yourself with turnovers and penalties. Yeah,
you really have to clean that stuff up. That's a must. I mean, you wanna be a team like Boise, one of the standard bears for the conference over the past decade and a half plus. You do it by playing the right way, by being more disciplined than them. You want to be at the level of Wyoming and Air Force. It's the small stuff like that. It's not the big stuff. It's not finding more talent. It's not having a more creative scheme. It's the small stuff that's
execution.
Right, exactly. Absolutely.
And that's what's been really frustrating. And the last one I'm going to throw out here is red zone efficiency. You need touchdowns, not field goals, which CSU has done a good job of.
Yeah.
But the problem is they've only scored on 12 of 19 trips. Now, 9 of those scores are touchdowns, which is great because for a couple years they kept settling for these 22-yard field goals, and that's just backbreaking. Mm-hmm. But they've had a couple of turnovers on downs, a couple interceptions, a couple fumbles. I mean, those are backbreaking, especially when you're moving the football well. And that's, kind of how you allow a team like Boise State to stay in it. Watching that San Jose State-Boise State game last week, San Jose State, they're up 14-0. Back-to-back red zone opportunities, they have to settle for field goals. Only get to 20. If you can get to 28 there in the first half, that's probably the dagger. It's probably game over. And Utah State, a great example. Like, you're up 17-0. Can you get that dagger touchdown to Torrey Horton? No. You got to take advantage when there's opportunities to put points on the board.
100%. The other side of the red zone coin is you can save yourself having to face red zone situations if you can pull off a few big plays, a few long bombs, another return, a pick six, a scoop and score. That kind of stuff is going to make a huge difference in putting touchdowns on the board without ever having to even enter the red zone.
And the one silver lining about CSU is they've done a good job. Like, they've forced turnovers on defense. They've returned a kick and a punt for a touchdown, which I got right in my preseason prediction. I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back there.
Hey, now.
They're not all going to be right, but I did get a couple of them.
Yeah.
You have the fake field goal for a touchdown where you execute. Like, the fake punt as well. Like, they've been able to do some impressive things, some things that should help you increase your margins, increase your opportunity to win. But you're killing yourself by turning the ball over and by committing penalties. So you're offsetting. It's, the 1 step forward, 2 steps back scenario.
Yeah, actually, perfect game to have another trick play.
Oh, yeah.
You
got to pull out all the stops, man.
Also, dude, not to take us back to segment 1, that toss on 3rd and 6 felt like one of the real backbreakers. Rams are facing 3rd and 6. Toss outside and, doesn't go anywhere. Such a terrible play. It felt like they were going against their identity. I hated that so much.
I didn't have an opportunity to ask Jay about this week. So, I want to be fair, and I would have asked about this, but it did feel like they kind of put the training wheels back on, which is one of the things they talked about after Washington State got a little too conservative. It felt like they were like, oh, we're not running the ball. Torrey's not here.
Yep.
Let's, try and get cute. And then it put Braden in a tough spot. He's out there trying to, make plays by himself. And that's when you put your young QB in a bad spot. I do think part of it is, Utah State, they threw a lot of zone at us, which Braden had just been carving up, man, for a couple of weeks. So it makes sense. They're going back to the baseball thing. Once people start to see your breaking ball after a couple of opportunities, they're going to make some adjustments. But it's just a great game at home, an opportunity where nobody's going to give you any chance in the world to win, to come out and punch back. I like that the Rams have a lot to play for in this one.
They do, man. And it's just like any year, trying to beat Boise. It's one of the goals. Should be.
They're the class of the league. They're the face of Mountain West football, and they are for a reason.
Yep.
We're going to get into the league slate here in just a second, give our updated power rankings and picks, but just a couple guys to keep an eye on. Ashton Jeanty, best running back in the Mountain West, one of the best running backs in the country. This guy is a stud, went for 175, I believe, this past weekend. Did have a couple fumbles, so that's something to keep an eye on. He's a home run hitter.
Yeah.
If you are not disciplined, if you are missing tackles, he is a guy that can single-handedly beat you. It reminds me back in, I want to say 2013, they had Jay Ajayi with Boise State, and he ran for 5 touchdowns against CSU. Jeanty is that type of talent. He can take over a game individually.
210 pounds of muscle on a 5'8", 5'9" frame. Those are just, with that kind of game-breaking speed, those are really tough dudes to tackle.
Some P5 schools missed out on that, dude.
For sure.
Eric McAllister, their biggest receiving threat, big-bodied guy, had a huge touchdown down the sideline that kind of sparked their comeback last week. That's, really the 2 biggest guys you have to look at. But those are guys that can really change the game in a hurry, especially, 3rd down. You got to look out for McAllister, and Jeanty's just the bread and butter. If you can force them to be in 3rd and long, prove that Madsen and Green can beat you as passers consistently, then you can kind of live with that. Hopefully you're not getting torched the way that you were a week ago. I'd like to see more of a bend, don't break approach. Give up the 8-yard completion, but come up and make the tackle. Make them continue to execute all the way down the field. It feels like at times they're maybe going for glory, especially after you get those 2 picks early on, and you're being a little too aggressive at times, and it's costing you.
It's kind of been both ways too. Both sides of the ball, I think, finding their
spots. Take those crossers, especially when they're there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, But that's all part of finding the balance with this team in general.
And they're a young group, and we're seeing it. And on top of that, and this is a great point that Kevin Lytle made when I was on a Ram Nation pod earlier this week for a roundtable discussion, there are like so few guys on this roster that have experienced any type of success at the collegiate level. Nobody from CSU. And you have like Torrey Horton, who is a part of a good Nevada team at the end, and Jacob Gardner. Outside of him, it's like you have a bunch of freshmen, guys that have never done it at this level.
Kobe Johnson.
That's a good point. North Dakota State.
Right.
You got 3 North Dakota State transfers, Kobe Johnson, Dom Jones, and Tony Pierce. Those guys all won. But, I mean, you are coming up a level. I just think that we're seeing that inexperience with their inconsistencies, with their inability to close games, maybe feeling themselves a little too early at times. Those are all things that you kind of have to work through. And as much as we want the turnaround to happen, and it felt like it was starting to get there, it's also a good reminder that you don't go from a losing program, a program that's been a disaster for a half decade plus, to the class of the league overnight. It takes a couple years, and you have those moments where you were, that game got away from me. And you hope that as time goes on, you fix those things and you stop doing it. But it's kind of a roller coaster with this team right now. And there's these insane dips, but there's also been highs. And I just want people to remember that as bad as this last weekend was, that does not change the improvement you've seen. The O-line and pass pro, it's night and day. Like, you've been able to create an offense that's dangerous. Yeah. No, you didn't do it last week, but as a whole, this team is a hell of a lot more fun to watch. I just hope that they come out and kind of remind everyone of that this weekend. Give everybody some excitement for that second half of the year.
Play up to your talent, man. And don't cheat yourself.
Don't beat yourself. Like, even in a losing effort, I think you could show a lot in this game.
Absolutely.
But you need to clean up some stuff. You've got to be more consistent. You got to stop beating yourself. We're going to get into this weekend slate, but do got to shout out FOCO, a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise. With a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more, they are the best for all fandoms. You can get some of the coolest bobbleheads. I really love their bobbleheads.
Yeah.
They always have our back for Colorado sports. They're going to have yours too. You can check out the link in our podcast description, or for non-presale items, just use that code DNVR and get 10% off your order. Also, shout out to Backus and Shanker. Backus and Shanker are here for Colorado families. When you get hurt, they're here to help. No money until they win your case. That's awesome. No upfront fees or any mystery fees or anything like that. They've already won over $1 billion for their clients, and they have offices in Denver, Aurora, Inglewood, and Fort Collins, serving all of Colorado. They have the strength and power to win your case with more than 30 lawyers and 100 staff. Backus and Shanker helps all kinds of injury cases where you weren't at fault: car accident, motorcycle, rideshare, pedestrians, trucks. They can even help if you're injured at work. Call Backus and Shanker at 222-2222 to find out if you have a case for free. Backus and Shanker wins. Shout out to everybody in the comment section. I really appreciate you guys for tuning in with me on the morning.
Likes. Come on, baby. Rack them up.
We got a question here from Ragnar I'll answer. Every other DNVR podcast, we're team swag, but not for the Rams. What's that say? I have more CSU gear than anybody I know, my guy. Just a weird comment. I don't understand that one.
You've got the helmet. I'm sure you've got Rams gear underneath that.
The Broncos.
I just went with the generic DNVR and the Spirit Hound Colorado hat. But yeah, we've got plenty of Rams gear. We rock it all the time. Jay Norvell signed helmets on the show often. Check it out. J Mike's got our sticker on there, and DNVR locker. All the best Rams gear in town.
It's a weird comment, man.
Come on.
Let's get into the power rankings, which there's a lot of movement because now all the Mountain West teams have played. I feel like we have a decent idea of what these teams are like. So we'll start at the bottom, we'll work our way up, and then we'll get into our picks for week 7. Starting at the bottom, they are maybe the worst team in the FBS. Nevada have yet to win a game this season. We'll see. They've got, big rivalry game against UNLV this weekend. UNLV looks really tough, but I just put in my notes, there's always next year.
There's always next year. CSU, a big part of why this team ranks so lowly.
You know they're going to be up for that game against CSU. I'll say that. They're going to play hard.
Yeah. That one and the UNLV game this week are going to be really interesting.
Can be really interesting. At 11, Hawaii.
Sorry.
Look, the defense is a disaster, but the island, man. The island is always going to be interesting. I will go to San Jose State at 10. Just continue to disappoint. I mean, they've got one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the league, in Chevin Cordero. They've got talent at the receiver position.
Disastrous, bro.
But just a disaster, especially on the defensive side.
Could you imagine covering them?
It'd be tough,
as
man.
rough as it's been with the Rams.
Well, and they have played a really hard schedule, so it's one of those instances where, like, you understand the position they're in, but it doesn't make it feel any better, especially given the preseason projections and whatnot. Anyways, at 9, this one may be controversial. San Diego State. I am jumping them and going New Mexico at 8. I just think that New Mexico, they have a real offense. They run the ball. You got Dylan Hopkins. I think they're a tougher team right now, and I think San Diego State is kind of hanging on to its last thread here.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that's where San Diego State is, but I mean, disastrous season.
Preseason prediction was that Brady Hoke gets fired. We shall see. Attendance is a disaster. They've got guys leaving midseason. It's tough. CSU at number 7. They are down from 4 the week before. I mean, you had to drop them. They can't be above Utah State after what we saw this weekend. I don't see how you justify having them over Boise or UNLV. So they've dropped to their lowest point of the season, unfortunately, at number 7. But they have an opportunity here to respond these next couple of weeks.
After a week like that, they're fully in the San Diego State, San Jose State tier, of like, yeah, should be better than this, but right now you're not. So
at some point the results have to matter.
Yeah.
And so that's why we've got CSU at 7, Utah State at 6. Fluky, maybe. They've come back from 20-0, from 17-0, but they're one of the most explosive offenses in the country. They have a ton of success on first down, and they got a lot of speed at receiver, and they're making good use of it.
I mean, it's kind of been a fun team.
They're fun to watch, man. I'd love to watch more Utah State. UNLV at 5. The Rebels have everybody's attention. Comment here, 5-0 against the spread from Jacob Russell. Good teams cover.
Good teams cover. They've definitely exceeded expectations. This top 5 is some really cool, fun stories in all of college football. And UNLV might be one of the funner ones. As you said, everyone's attention now. An impressive turnaround over the last few years of that.
Really impressive. Man. I mean, I was a little surprised they moved on from Marcus Arroyo because it kind of felt like they were close. They had blown some games, but they were close. Barry Odom comes in. He's doing a great job of taking advantage of some of that talent. They had a big influx via the portal as well, but they run the ball. They've got a great defensive line. They have an identity. It's a good way to play. Yeah. And they don't beat themselves. They're much more disciplined than CSU, which is big. I got Boise State at 4. They might be finding their stride. And that's the one thing that I've talked about in our Discord with DNVR members. By the way, always great time to become a DNVR member. We've got an active bunch of college football fans from throughout the Mountain West. CSU, Boise State, Wyoming, Air Force, everybody's represented pretty well.
Yeah, Broncos country comes in the chat and represented by a lot of those Mountain West states, no doubt.
It's cool. It's a lot of fun. But one thing I've been drilling about Boise State is, are they the same team? No, but they're still going to be in the mix when it's all said and done because they have an identity. They run the ball. And if you win this game, you're 3-0 with a pretty good chance to be in the mix. I mean, they've got some tough games coming up, but Fresno's got some tough games. They're injured as well at quarterback now. We'll see what happens there. Wyoming and Air Force play each other this weekend, so somebody's taking an L there. I mean, Boise, if they won, could be sitting there at 3-0 in the Mountain West and basically in great position to win yet another title.
Reminding us they're still one of the class of the conference, and especially in Boise, never easy to go and beat them on the blue field.
Never easy. Fresno State at 3. They fall after dropping a game in Wyoming. Really tough spot, understandable. But this is more a projection of how I kind of view them going forward. They've struggled a little bit despite the fact that their defensive numbers being really good, teams have kind of been able to run the ball on them a little bit of late. And Mikey Keene and Lavelle Bailey, two of their best players, both dealing with injuries. Looking like Mikey Keene, the quarterback's going to miss this weekend. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if they can kind of sustain this really impressive start, especially given how much talent they lost from that championship team last year.
They'll have a chance to redeem themselves against Air Force and Boise. I mean, I think that top four is really going to be jostling and going to kind of have to duke it out. Wyoming, though, with a huge win, man. Like, massive. And that's why they're your number 2 team.
They're tough as hell. And
yeah,
I think there's an argument you could put that they deserve to be 1, and I would understand that, especially you beat Fresno. That's
maybe
the best
this
Mountain West
week,
win.
honestly, maybe they did deserve it. Yeah.
I just think Air Force is better. And so I'm sticking to my guns on it. Air Force is 9.5-point favorites this weekend against Wyoming, which feels high, but I do think the book is kind of telling you something.
Yep. That tells you a lot. Path for Wyoming is something we should always kind of study as Colorado State fans. Maybe CSU's in their Josh Allen phase right now. More top heavy, obviously there's not a Josh Allen necessarily on this.
I get
roster.
what you're saying though.
More top heavy, lacking in depth, a little more, from one week to the next, you never know what you expect.
Tiff, will you just put Air Force on that one? They're number 2 in the FBS in total defense. Have they played anybody great at this point? No, but they are absolutely kicking the shit out of everyone that they play. Offensively, they're executing at a really impressive level, much like Fresno State. Very, very impressive coaching job by Calhoun that they've been able to continue to sustain this despite losing basically your entire offensive production. But also, and we've said this time and time again, good reminder that if Air Force returns the majority of their starting offensive line, take their over because they're going to be fine.
No kidding. And I mean, we can say they haven't played anybody, but really the opponents they've played, they've made look like nobodies. Utah State, San Jose State, San Diego State. We know there's talent on all 3 squads. Absolutely annihilated by the Falcons, with San Jose State even being on the road. So this is a huge barometer game with hosting Wyoming, and then, Navy Air Force sandwiched in between CSU. Going to be a really interesting stretch for the Falcons.
Air Force it's just basically nothing but rivalry games for a month straight.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Which is brutal, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Yep. That's my Mountain West Power Rankings for the week. Tell me where I'm right, tell me where I'm wrong. I appreciate the engagement. Let's get into our picks for the weekend. We only had 3 games last weekend, back to a more normal slate.
Yes.
Starting with Friday night, Fresno State, 4-point favorites at Utah State. No Mikey Keene. Yeah. Give me Utah State at home. Give me the home dog.
Yeah, that sounds smart on a Friday. You never know. This is a classic, though. Feeling too high on yourself, Utah State. Feeling too low on yourself, Fresno State. Fresno takes care of business, covers the 4.
I like it. Starting with some disparity, always good. UNLV, 9.5-point favorites at Nevada.
Nevada Derby, we'd call this or Derby, we'd call this in soccer terms.
I like it. I think it's the battle for the Red Cannon or something like that. Normally, I would be much more worried about the context of a rivalry matchup.
Yep.
It wouldn't shock me if you see Nevada play hard in this one. They have battled hard, and some losses these past couple weeks have been a little bit more respectable. That said, I think the difference in talent is just too significant in this one. Give me UNLV to win by double digits.
100%. You look at it, they just dropped us from space. Oh, rivalry game, it's too high. Dog. No, you follow these 2 programs this season. Give us UNLV over 9.5 to cover that.
Going to Albuquerque, New Mexico, 8-point home dogs against San Jose State. This is the hardest game, I think, in my opinion.
Yikes.
It's probably a kitchen sink game if you're San Jose State. You're sitting there at 1-5. You still have an outside chance of making a bowl, just given that their schedule is very much front loaded. They still got some tough games left.
The schedule's not easy.
You want to know what? I have bought into what New Mexico has done offensively. Give me the home dogs to cover.
Man, that's probably smart because objectively, you shouldn't be laying 8 points on San Jose State. There's just like nothing reasonably.
They're a disaster defensively.
A smart move. Yet they're kind of begging you to do it. Give me San Jose State.
It really would not be surprising if like San Jose State won this by 20 and just got that like get right performance. Yeah. I'm feeling a little too high on Mexico. I could very much see it.
Margins. It's just that offense could get rolling and all of a sudden double-digit lead seems like nothing.
Yep. I don't know if San Jose State can stop New Mexico either. So maybe take the over. Wyoming, 10.5 point dogs.
Ugh.
At Air Force.
To me, this is the toughest of any spread this week.
Yeah, I was going to say, I might have spoke a little too soon.
It's tough, man.
Craig Bowl has a winning record against Air Force, a losing record against New Mexico, which makes no sense whatsoever. But
at Air Force, where the crowd,
which is huge,
60-40.
Could be revenge factor. Wyoming played a big role in killing Air Force's Mountain West Championships hopes last year.
Wyoming coming off a big win at home. How high are them? While, Air Force is studying up on this. They're coming off a bye last week. Rested and prepared, which is why I think the book is so all in on Air Force.
I have so much respect for both Calhoun and Bowl that I'm so torn on this. I could see this. I really could see this go anyway, which is a cop out. But give me Wyoming to cover. I do think Air Force wins, but I think this Wyoming defense is tough enough. I think they'll defend the option well enough. Where I'm concerned is, does Air Force beat them with the passing game? Which is funny to say, but Wyoming, like CSU, like some of the Boise, has had some lapses in pass coverage.
Basically impossible, but I'm going with the simp pick. The public pick. Give me Wyoming plus 10.5. It's just too big a spread for what I think are fairly evenly matched teams.
I would say Wyoming money line, we're sprinkling plus 310. That's really good value for a matchup they should be competitive
call,
in.
Man. It's a good call.
Boise State, 7.5 point favorites over CSU in Fort Collins, 7.5. The average margin of victory for Boise when they played here. So well set by Vegas. Where are you at?
Okay, so anytime I cover the Rams against the spread, it doesn't happen. And you remember Middle Tennessee, I purposely picked against what I thought.
Ooh, I like it. The reverse jinx.
That worked. So we're going to go reverse jinx the rest of the year. So officially, I'm picking Boise State. Put my face on the Boise State side.
But he's winking at you.
Yes. But
we can't say it out loud.
In reality, perfect spot. Boise coming off a big win. Rams coming off a big loss. Game of opposites. No, you can't get too high or too low. They're college kids. They're going to bounce back. They're riding that roller coaster. They don't want to be embarrassed. It means a lot to make history. They're back at home. They want to regain some damn respect, man. They enjoyed winning 2 games. They enjoyed feeling that home crowd and the love. They want to get back to that. They're covering this and sprinkling plus 240 on the money line. Yeah, not even as crazy as that. As crazy as the Wyoming money line is something I may or may not be doing. But officially, Boise State to cover 7.5 on the road.
I'm gonna rock with the Rams. I got asked the other day if CSU will beat Boise State on Ram Nation. I said no. All year I've come in feeling like this was the most beatable that Boise State has been.
Don't steer too far from home, Justin. Don't overreact to last week when everything we've been saying all year still rings true.
I'm going to contradict myself from earlier this week. I'm taking CSU to cover.
Let's go.
I'm going to get bold. CSU is going to win this game. They're going to beat Boise State for the first time in program history.
Let's go.
Why? Because college football is the dumbest sport of all time. It wouldn't even shock me if they beat Boise and then lost to UNLV by double digits or something, just because college football is that stupid, that erratic. But on homecoming,
he means amazing and beautiful.
Yes, that's exactly what it's why I love it, because it's stupid. It's my stupid sport.
It is.
And if you can't take the stupidness of it, if you can't take how wonky and wild it is. College football's not for you, man.
Yeah, no, you're not enjoying
It's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's fun. You're high at other points. You take dips. You feel nauseous at some moments, but you still keep signing up for it week after week. Give me the Rams. Bounce back game. Yes, I lean optimistic. It's no, it's no secret that I try to be optimistic until you can't. I don't think this team is who we saw last week. I don't think they're a Mountain West championship team like I hoped for, but I do think that they are at least a bowl team, and I think at home this is a great opportunity. Feels very similar to going into Boulder, where nobody in the world is going to give you an opportunity. They're going to come out with a chip on their shoulder, and I like the Rams to pull the upset. I should have said it earlier. I shouldn't have gone back on myself, but we're rocking with it. Green and gold. Boise's not a state. Give me the Rams, baby.
Facts.
San Diego State, we're going to wrap up 6-point favorites at Hawaii. I hate everything about this game. I hate everything about this line from a betting perspective because who knows? You're in the island. It's going to be late night. It's wonky. Give me Hawaii to win it outright. San Diego State sucks.
We're back, baby. +6 on the island never dies. We'll be watching this late night Saturday, always and forever. Island, we take Hawaii. It's what we do. Even though it hasn't been working this season, it's stupid as hell to do once again. We're doing it, baby. It's
sticking to my principles, baby.
Yeah,
At dawn, we ride.
Yes.
I'll be back with more content over these next couple days. We'll be talking hoops. Shout out Isaiah Stevens, McKenna Hofschild, both named the Mountain West preseason players of the year, respectively, on the men's and women's side. So it's going to be a fun season. Really looking forward to getting more into this Boise State game. Obviously, we'll have post-game coverage as well. Much love, y'all. Dre, thank you. Shout out to Tiff on the board. Always proud to be. Peace.